The moment begins in darkness. Imagine drifting for months in silence, with no hunger, no fatigue, no companionship, only the rhythm of your own thoughts echoing inside a body that doesn't feel like your own. That was Satoru Mikami's reality, now reborn as a slime. A creature so weak, so forgettable, that in any bestiary of this world, it would be dismissed as fodder. And yet, beneath that gelatinous shell stirred something unprecedented. Predator. Great sage. Skills that bent the natural order. For 90 long days, he tested them, toyed with them, tried to fill the void of solitude with idle experimentation. But what he did not know was that his greatest transformation was still waiting. Not in another skill, not in another accident of adaptation, but in the form of a single voice reaching through the abyss. Can you hear me, little one? That moment shattered the monotony. Rimuru had been waiting, aching, for connection, though he hadn't admitted it. And suddenly it was here, vast, commanding, ancient. At first he thought it was some hallucination, or maybe another function of his mysterious abilities. But the presence was real. He fumbled with words, reckless enough to mutter, "Shut up, Baldy!" And those words, they carried. Thoughts projected outward, received by someone else. Not silence, not solitude. For the first time since his rebirth, someone had answered him. And that someone was no ordinary being. It was Veldora, the Storm Dragon. One of the 4 true dragons of existence, a walking natural disaster whose aura alone could warp the balance of nations. For 3 centuries, he had been bound in a prison of absolute confinement, sealed away by a summoned hero wielding powers beyond comprehension. He was a being every adventurer feared, every kingdom respected, every map quietly avoided. And yet here he was, laughing, amused, curious about the jelly-like creature that had dared to speak so casually to him. This is the trap of the chapter. At first, the reveal is overwhelming. Rimuru, still weak and nameless, faces a dragon whose very name could terrify armies. You expect incineration. You expect the conversation to end with one careless remark. And yet the opposite unfolds. Instead of annihilation comes amusement. Instead of fear comes curiosity. The unimaginable gap between the 2 beings becomes a bridge. Veldora's aura was suffocating. His voice rumbled like a storm contained in chains. But beneath the fury of his presence lay something Rimuru understood all too well: loneliness. 300 years of solitude, 3 centuries with nothing but the walls of a prison for company. Rimuru had been alone for 90 days and already felt despair. Veldora had endured centuries. It was in that shared solitude that their bond began to spark. Through Veldora, Rimuru was given the first real window into the world. The categories of monsters and humans, the gulf between the named and the nameless, the difference between transmigrants, reincarnators, and summoned others. Concepts Rimuru never could have guessed on his own. And yet Veldora didn't speak like a scholar. He spoke like someone who wanted to be heard. Someone who relished the simple act of conversation after centuries of silence. Then came the gift. Veldora offered Rimuru magic sense, a way of perceiving the world that went beyond the human experience of eyes and ears. Guided by both Veldora and Great Sage, Rimuru's perception bloomed. Suddenly, he could see in every direction at once, a 360-degree tapestry of detail sharper than anything in his previous life. And with that vision came his first true sight of Veldora: obsidian scales, a body vast and terrible, every breath radiating power. His instinctive cry said it all. "Gah! You're a dragon!" This is where the loop tightens. You think you've seen it all. The dragon revealed, the friendship sparked. But then the conversation deepens, and with it the stakes. Rimuru learns the story of Veldora's imprisonment, the hero who wielded absolute severance and unlimited imprisonment. The laws of this world where survival of the fittest reigns supreme. And in that revelation lies the real tension. Veldora, this storm incarnate, is not free. He is caged, and despite his power, he cannot escape alone. Here lies the bait of asymmetry. Rimuru, a newborn slime, possesses a skill unlike anything else: Predator, a power designed to consume, to analyze, to break down and store even the unimaginable. Veldora, for all his might, is trapped, and so impossibly, their fates align. The weak becomes the only hope for the strong. The nameless slime offers salvation to the most feared dragon in existence. The irony is staggering, and it is here that you lean forward, desperate to know how this impossible bargain could unfold. But before the pact, there was trust, a name. In this world, names are not decoration, they are power. They shape the essence of monsters, binding them with identity and meaning. And in that dark prison, two beings, one forgotten by the world, the other yet to be recognized, offered names to one another. Veldora, once feared as the Storm Dragon, became Veldora Tempest, and the slime, once a nameless mass of jelly, became Rimuru Tempest. It was not just a ritual, it was a recognition, a declaration of companionship, an identity forged through trust. The payoff arrives in the audacity of their plan. Rimuru proposes what no one else would dare, to absorb Veldora, along with the prison itself, into his body. Predator would hold the dragon within, analyzing the barrier that had bound him for centuries. It was a gamble beyond reason. Failure could mean annihilation. Success could mean nothing more than a promise of someday. And yet, in that moment, it was enough. Veldora laughed, his voice echoing with thunder. It'd be far more fun to break through this prison with you than sit around and await your return. That was trust. That was the seed of a bond that would reshape the entire world. And so Rimuru consumed him, the barrier and the dragon both, taking into himself the most terrifying existence the continent had ever known. The prison went silent. For the first time in 300 years, the Storm Dragon's aura vanished from the world. Outside, kingdoms trembled, guilds convened, the balance of power wavered. Rumors spread of a vanished disaster, of a silence where once storms had raged. What the world saw as the disappearance of terror was, in truth, the birth of something greater, the beginning of Rimuru's rise. Inside the cave, though, all was quiet. Rimuru lingered, feeling the weight of what he had done. Veldora was no longer beside him, no longer a towering presence he could look upon. Instead, he was within. A promise sealed not just in words, but in essence. Companionship preserved through faith. It was here, in the shadows of the cave, that Rimuru's journey ceased to be about survival alone. He had a name, he had a friend, and with that came a new kind of strength. The trap was complete, from the emptiness of isolation to the overwhelming presence of a dragon, from the fear of annihilation to the birth of a bond.